Why, hello there.
I'm Leslie Martin. I'm currently a rigging artist at Mainframe Entertainment. I used to be a technical artist at MPC, and then I went to Sony for character effects. And those are both cloth, hair, fur simulation. And then I went into rigging at Mainframe, which is putting the bones in so the characters can move properly.
Nice. So, journey from the Midwest. Um, I figured if you would be interested in talking about how in the world you ended up from Ohio to Vancouver.
How early do you want to go back?
That's up to you. Where this story begins is it entirely up to you.
All right. So I think I'm going to start at the beginning of my animation journey.
Very good place to start.
Was when I was watching The Incredibles. I was in a clinical depression. I'm bipolar. And seeing the short that came before The Incredibles, it's Boundin', if you're familiar with it. It's the one about the sheep who gets sheared and thinks his life is over, and then a jackalope comes along and starts singing at him, and it's really cute and fun. And he's like, no, you can just rebound, life goes on, it's gonna be okay. That helped me function again. That like helped pull me out of the depression a little bit. And that's the moment when I was like, wait, someone had to be paid to put that on the screen. Like, that's art and animation and storytelling and making people happy with computers, and that's like everything that I'm interested in. And someone was paid to do that. I can do that. That's a thing. That's when I decided that I wasn't going to drive the Wienermobile and make fireworks anymore, which was my life's ambition before that, which still would have been really cool. But
sacrifices were made.
Yeah, sacrifices were made. I never drove the Wienermobile. You can only drive the Wienermobile if you're straight out of college. So, lost my opportunity to do that. But I'm working in animation now, so.
Pluses and minuses.
Yes. So that was in, I forget what year, but middle school-ish. And I immediately was like, I want to learn how to animate. I want to learn how to do modeling. I want to learn all this stuff. So I went to Camp Cain, which is CAEN at the computer... Camp Cain, CAEN, at the University of Michigan. I'm not sure if it's still running anymore, but it stands for Computer Aided Engineering Network. And it was a camp where you learn animation or coding, or I forget what the other things were because I never went into those things. But I went back for 2 years and I learned animation the first year. I learned how to model and animate in 3ds Max. And I learned how to do C# the next year. I learned how to code in C#. And it was lots of fun. I loved it. I learned how to model my face in 2 weeks. And I got my face looking really good, and then I accidentally saved over the file with just one vertex.
Dang.
And I was like, that sucks, but now I know what I'm doing, and I can do it again, and it's going to be even better. And everyone else in the class was like, yeah, this is what you should be doing with your life, because I would not, like, that was too much work for you to lose. So, like, why are you happy about this? And then I went to some community classes at a local school where I was learning AutoCAD. And by the end of that class, I was teaching the teacher how to use the program.
That's a good sign.
Even though I'd never touched it before. So that was fun. And then I went to high school, and I ended up switching high schools from my public school to a private school senior year because of bipolar issues. I don't know how much you want to get into that, but
it's up to you.
Okay, I'd like to talk about it then, because it's
cool.
Something that needs to be talked about. All right, so in high school, I ended up going to a residential treatment facility my junior year of high school. It was the day after prom that I went. The concession was, okay, Mom and Dad, I will go to this treatment facility. I will check myself in. I will take meds. I will do everything I can if I can go to prom, because I want to go to prom. I don't want to miss out on my junior prom.
Yeah.
So they were like, all right, if this is what it takes to convince you to go, then we'll do it. And that saved my life. Like, it I learned cognitive behavioral therapy there, and it changed the way I think about everything in life. And that really changed my ability to be able to function in the world. That and the finding the correct meds to go on.
That's wonderful.
So if you need help, get help. Highly recommend. I went to Rogers Memorial Hospital in Oconomowoc, Wisconsin. If you can go there or anywhere similar, highly recommend. I would not. I would probably not be alive today if it weren't for them. Honestly.
God,
Yeah.
that's great though that you went.
So after that, I decided I didn't want to go back to the public school that I came out of, because even if I had changed, my peers hadn't, and they still had like all the memories of me when I was undiagnosed and unmedicated bipolar, and that was not fun for anyone involved. So I went to a private school in northern Michigan, and they actually had an animation class that was mostly stop motion animation. But I was really excited to be able to go there because of that. So I learned some intro to animation principles there. And then I got into the Savannah College of Art and Design, which was my first choice college. And
I've heard of it.
yeah, it was a great experience for me, because I had professors that really loved what they did, and they imparted that passion to their students. There are some other issues with the college that I don't want to get into.
Well, I share your positives.
Yes. So if you take everything I say with a grain of salt, if you're thinking of going there, it's a great school for the professors. Yeah.
Yeah. Student loans, man. I'll go there for. I'll just say if you're thinking about it, everything Leslie said is true, but also consider the impact the student loan will have on the rest of your life. Just moving on.
Yep. Yeah, it's not a cheap school. So the professors there really imparted their passion to me, and that was great. It was a life-changing experience studying under people that cared that much about what they do and wanting to pass it on so badly to all of their students. And that's where I learned that animation is not my thing. Modeling's okay. My first modeling thing I ever did was Hieronymus Bosch paintings, which may be why I thought modeling was eh.
Biting off a lot there.
Yeah, we had this one assignment where I was told, well, the human leg sticking out of the egg is not anatomically proportional to the egg, and I was like, did you hear a word of what you just said in that sentence?
Have you seen the painting?
You're telling me a human leg is not anatomically proportional to a chicken leg it's sticking out of.
I made the mistake in my first modeling class of deciding to model a wrecked van that had been rolled over, and I don't know why they agreed to let me do that. It wasn't fun for anyone. Critiques are very subjective when it's a wrecked vehicle and it's your first model.
Yep.
Anyway, sorry. Yeah.
Yep. And then I was animating T-Rexes running, and that was fun, but also I'm not a fan of the graph editor. I have a complicated relationship with it, prefer other things. And then I got into rigging, and my professors there were like, oh yeah, this is going to be tough, but I hope you can get through it. And with their help, I did get through it, and it was lots of fun. Rigging is not for everyone. Maya, the program we use, does pick favorites. One of my friends was sitting next to me and literally pressed every button and typed every command in the exact order in the same way that I did, and it always crashed on her.
Love it.
And I would comfort her at the beginning of every class and the end of every class and in the middle of every class. So if Maya is being mean to you, it's not just you.
Yeah, you could have just said the wrong thing. It hears.
Yes, Maya knows. Maya can smell your fear. But yeah, so that's where I started learning rigging. There wasn't really much coding when I first started at the rigging department at SCAD, or the rigging classes in SCAD. I think there are more now. I was really pushing to change that because I taught myself and learned from Coursera courses. It's an online learning platform if you're not familiar with it. So I took classes from, I think it was Rice University and the University of Toronto. They had like intro to Python classes, and that was really fun to learn.
Oh, neat.
It was kind of harder to learn because it was like computer science Python as opposed to Maya Python, and there
So
is a pretty big difference.
you took those courses while you were a full-time student?
Yeah, they were
Wow.
free courses, so like if I fell behind or anything, I wasn't like out a bunch of money.
That
But
helps.
yeah, that's why I was looking for the free stuff. Because it's not fun to be out a bunch of money if you're putting all this effort into your like actual schoolwork and then into extracurricular schoolwork and so much stress.
Yeah.
So having the free courses really helped with that. I don't think I completed one of them, but I did complete the other one. And yeah, it taught me the basics of Python, and then I could apply that to Python within Maya. I took a C++ class in the gaming department, in the interactive game, whatever.
Yeah, they've changed the name of that department a couple times. I
Yeah,
don't remember what it is.
the
But
gaming
yes, that one.
people.
The
Yes.
gamers.
The people that make the games. They had C++ classes that they had to take, and I took one, and the professor was like, "Are you sure you want to take this? Like, usually animators do like action script and stuff. Like, do you need the C++?" And I was like, "No, yeah, I want to take it. I want to develop for the API and stuff, and the API is currently only in C++." And she was like, "All right." And I was the only person who wanted to be in the class, apparently, because the game design students were all like, "I want to do like the assets for the games. I don't want to like code the actual system for the games." And so they just had to take it as a requirement, and I was taking it because I wanted to be there. So that was a big difference in like motivation, I guess.
Yeah, really. I bet the teacher appreciated you.
Yeah.
His nails.
Aw, kitty.
Okay,
Bye,
bye.
Once you learn how to read code, like pretty much any sort of code, you can then pick up the syntax on any other code, and it's still hard to write from scratch, but you can read what it's doing.
Okay.
So even if you're just going to a summer camp for like a couple weeks, highly recommend if you're interested in learning to code, because you're probably not going to remember much after that intense short period of learning it, but you will be able to read it afterwards, or at least I was, and that was very helpful, especially in learning other languages in the future, because pretty much the logic is similar in all coding languages. It's just the punctuation and the wording.
Foundations.
Yeah, the syntax is what it's called, but basically punctuation, grammar, and wording. So after that, I decided I wanted to continue studying rigging, and so I went to Texas A&M, which I went there for two reasons. One was because their department was awesome, and the other was because it kept coming up in my studies and my research. I was rigging a bird my senior year, and I was trying to find a feather script, and the one that I found online to study and pick apart and draw inspiration from was from Texas A&M. And then a speaker came and was talking about how one of their best student reels was from Texas A&M, and I was like, "Oh, hey, this just keeps popping up, and I should probably look into this more." And their program is really cool. It's called visualization because it's fine arts and animation and the technical side all combined.
So did you study, and this is like after you graduated from Scout?
Yeah, this was in grad school.
Okay, and then you moved from Georgia to Texas.
Yes.
So you're just making the country rounds here so far.
Yes.
Wow.
And I wasn't a big fan of Texas. Didn't like the atmosphere there, partially because I was like in the middle of nowhere, Texas. Like it was 2.5 hours to Austin or Houston or anywhere worthwhile. And it was right when Trump got elected, and there was all that stuff. You can cut that out if you want, but
Oh, no. This channel is very open about their disdain for fascist regimes.
yeah, it just wasn't a great atmosphere to be in, especially because people love their guns there. So I went for the MFA, which is the terminal degree, and and I needed to have a body of work showing. And I was going to do an animation about how dinosaurs are visualized, because generally they're like shrink wrapped. I'm not explaining this very well. In the archaeological community, or the archaeological artist community anyway, there's a term called shrink wrapping, and that's how we see most dinosaurs in their traditional drawings. And it's basically you have the bones, you put a little bit of muscle on to make sure that they can move the bones, and then you just put skin on that real tight. And that's why they all look like lizards.
Yeah.
Whereas if you look at other creatures and you shrink wrap them, they look terrifying. Like, I was gonna have, my animation idea was gonna be this creature coming out and sort of pouncing at the screen, like attacking the screen, and it would have like these giant claws and giant fangs and this shrink wrapped face and all that, and it would be terrifying and scaly and not fun to look at. And then it would morph into what it actually is, and you'd see that it's a kitten playing. Because if you look at a cat skeleton without the fur and the cutesy like fascia and like the ears, and like if you take the ears off a cat, it's terrifying anyway.
Yeah, cat skulls are
Especially
pretty
with
frightening.
their claws, their retractable claws. Like if you take all the fur off of those, then it's just like. So
That's a really fun project.
yeah, so that's what I was going to do. And I ended up switching from that because I wanted to get out of Texas faster.
Fair.
Because I was teaching an intro to Maya class. And after class, 2 of my students came up to me and they said, Professor Lessa, we know we're not supposed to be on social media during class, but someone just posted that on Yik Yak that they're going to shoot up the quad right outside right about now.
Oh, geez.
And I had just dismissed the class. And I was like, all right, I know I just said y'all can go home, but someone did just there is an active shooter threat. If you are comfortable going home, I'm not your mom, I'm not going to keep you here. If you're not comfortable going home, you can come with me up to the grad lab, which is the only room in this building that doesn't have one wall that's a window. And we're going to turn off the lights and lock the door until we hear from campus police. And so that was one of the most terrifying moments of my life.
Yeah, really.
It turns out that the person who posted on Yik Yak thought it was a funny joke. And I think they've caught them in the library, and they were just sitting in the library doing homework or something. And I think they did go to jail. I'm not sure.
Good for them.
But
couldn't happen to a worse person.
Yeah. So that was lots of fun. And that was my first big shake. And then a month later, they posted, or they passed a law that was like, oh yeah, you can have concealed carry in the classroom. That's not a problem. And I was like, that's not a thing that I want my freshmen who are upset because they didn't turn in any assignments and I had to fail them to be able to have when they come into the student-teacher conferences.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to deal with concealed carry.
I mean, college is a stressful time. You don't need to be adding live ammunition to that.
Yeah. So that's why I changed my thesis entirely to something that was physical art so I could get out of there faster. So I ended up doing bubble paintings, which are really fun. It's like literally painting with watercolor bubbles.
That sounds
and I
fun.
did a whole thesis on perception and how our view of the world is very fragile. It was lots of fun. I loved my work from it. I'm not upset that I had to change to that. I do wish I had gotten the animation, but it would have taken several years longer, and I was not going to do that. So
Totally fair. Glad you got it.
That was my leaving Texas experience. But A&M itself is a good school. So after that, I went home to Ohio, which is where I grew up. And I stayed there for a couple months because that's where rent was free. And during that time, I did some studies on Rigging Dojo, which is a site that pairs you up with a mentor and you can learn more in-depth areas of whatever area of rigging you want. And it's really cool.
That is cool.
And So I was working on that in my portfolio and applying to jobs all over the place, applying to all the jobs.
As one does.
And yes, and NPC contacted me on LinkedIn and they were like, "Hey, we saw your rigging stuff. Can you do creature effects?" And I was like, "Or can you do technical animation? Because that's what it's called in NPC."
Mm.
And this is where I was really glad that I saved all of my projects from college because I did take a cloth hair and fur sim class, and still have all of that, all of my projects from that, so I could show them that I did know what I was doing a little bit.
Helpful.
So if you're in college, save all of your work.
Completely coincidentally, I'm wearing one of my NPC shirts today. So
Nice.
this not planned, was just next in line.
Yes. So NPC contacted me, and I had all my little snippets from that course to put together into a quick reel. And I sent that off to them. And so they contacted me again for an interview, which was cool. And they were like, "So are you comfortable going up to Canada?" And I was like, "Yes, please." Like, get me out of here. And so I got my work permit all together and I moved up to Vancouver. And that was the day, or 3 days after my sister's wedding. She got married May 27th and I started June 4th.
Wow.
It was a whirlwind.
I imagine.
So that was, I did tell them that I couldn't start until after her wedding, which was why they were like, "All right, June 4th." And I was like,
That's technically
"Yay."
after. Thanks, guys.
Like, I guess I'll pack up my life and be the maid of honor and then move countries all in the
Jeez.
same week.
No stress.
Yep, no, none at all. Yeah, so I moved up to Vancouver, worked at NPC for a while. That was lots of fun. I was hired to work on Detective Pikachu. And I ended up working on Aquaman a little bit as well because they needed people to work overtime. Aw, kitty. So I was working days on Detective Pikachu and overtime on Aquaman, which was
Jeez.
an interesting experience because they really needed people to finish up Aquaman. And then I worked on the original Sonic the Hedgehog design for a little bit. And then we got the tweet that told us they were redesigning, which is how we found out about it. Like, he tweeted, "Oh yeah, we're changing the design," and everyone in the studio was like, we're doing what now?"
Say again.
Like,
Oh, good.
so that was fun. So then everyone went to work on Maleficent, which I also worked on. And then we went back to Sonic when the redesign was done. And then I moved to Sony after that and worked on Over the Moon. And
Yes.
then
I worked on that with you.
yeah. And then when all the projects were pushed because of COVID, my contract was not renewed. So that was fun having a month vacation where I was playing Animal Crossing and panicking about not having a job.
We'll get into COVID next. But
Yeah. And then I was hired at Mainframe, and the rest is history.
the rest is history. So
Yep.
quite a long journey, I think. You definitely see where the seeds in your life were planted for what would grow into, where you are currently. But it's so hard to predict
Yeah.
where life is going to take you. I mean, even 10 years down the road from now, like what is life going to look like? It's going to be awesome, and it's going to be what you can't predict it. No idea.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Unless you have any final words for us, I think this has been fantastic.
No problem. I don't think I have any awesome parting words. But
Those were awesome parting words. They're awesome.
follow your passion.
Yes. If people want to connect with you, if people want to connect with you, where can they find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. In your connection message, just tell me you found me through the video. If I don't know you and you don't put that message in, I might not connect with you just because I do like to know where people are coming from.
Mm-hmm. Totally
Unless
fair.
you're a recruiter, then I'll always connect with you.
Awesome.
But yeah, if you're a normal people person, then be sure to put like where you found me so that I will connect with you. I think my LinkedIn URL is LEMartin3, like LEMARTIN 3, number 3.
Yep. And just make sure it's the Leslie Martin who is a rigger and worked at MVC and mainframe and all that stuff.
Yeah, the coolest one.
The coolest one, obviously.
Yeah, obviously.
Awesome.
Hey, thanks for watching that video. If you liked what you saw, give us a like. If you didn't, don't. Head on over to thehungrycreatures.com for more episodes, short films, or to sign up for our free magazine. Catchphrase.